The email sat there like a ticking bomb, but before I could face it, my mind dragged me backward 5 years to a Saturday that rewired my life. Back then, Saturdays meant driving up to my parents' house in Columbus, Ohio. Their neighborhood smelled of cut grass and grilled burgers, kids' laughter bouncing off driveways. I always carried dessert from a bakery on High Street blueberry pie, Dad's favorite. It was ritual comfort family. Or at least I thought it was. That night, their kitchen was full of the usual sounds, the hum of the old refrigerator, the faint baseball game coming from the living room, Mom humming while setting the table. I remember feeling proud, genuinely proud, because I'd saved $120,000. Every overtime shift every night, eating ramen instead of takeout, every dollar stacked toward my dream, a down payment for a home of my own. It meant safety, permanence, proof I wasn't just drifting through life. Then Lily arrived with Jason bursting through the door like royalty entering a stage. She had that high-pitched excitement in her voice, the same one she'd used the last 2 times she launched her so-called business ventures, and both times it had ended with tears creditors and my parents scrambling to bail her out. I should have seen it coming. We gathered around the oak table, the one with a cigarette burn from Dad's college days. Mom sat, tall eyes shining. "Your sister has a new business plan," she announced, as though Lily had just invented electricity. "And this time it's going to work." Lily leaned across the table, practically glowing. "I've mapped everything out. It's foolproof. I just need some startup capital." Then her gaze locked on me, and Jason's did too sharp and expectant. My stomach sank. "Why are you both looking at me like that?" I asked. Lily's voice softened into that syrupy tone she always used before a demand. "Ava, I know you've been saving. Around 120,000, right?" The room tilted. My fork clattered against the plate. "No," I said flatly. "I'm not investing my house money in your business." Her face reddened instantly. Jason muttered, "Don't be stupid, Ava. This is an opportunity." Mom's eyes narrowed. Dad's jaw clenched. The air thickened. I felt it pressing against my ribs. I tried to laugh shaky. "You've failed twice, Lily. Maybe it's time for a real job." Silence. Then Lily burst into tears, stormed off, Jason trailing behind. And just like that, the ambush turned on me. I stayed at the table, gripping the edge like it could anchor me. Mom's eyes filled with disgust. "How could you be so cruel?" "She's your sister." "Cruel." My voice cracked. "I'm protecting myself. I worked for that money." Dad's voice dropped into that low rumble that always meant trouble. "She's more talented than you, Ava. You're just jealous." The words pierced deeper than I care to admit. I'd always been the quiet one, the one who did her homework, stayed late at the office, kept my head down. Lily. She dazzled, failed, and got applause anyway. Then Dad laid it out. "Give her the money or you're cut out of this family. We'll never see you again." For a second, my ears rang so loud I thought I might faint. My chest burned. I could feel my pulse in my temples. That's when I saw the brass key hanging on the wall hook near the door, Dad's spare key to the house. For years, it had meant belonging. That night, it looked like a threat. I forced myself to stand. My chair scraped back, shrill against the tile. "If that's how it is," I said, voice shaking, "but steady enough, then I guess you've made your choice." Mom gasped as though I'd slapped her. Dad's lips curled into something between anger and satisfaction. I walked out into the humid Ohio night, the smell of lilacs mixing with exhaust fumes. My heart pounded so hard it hurt. Every step to my car felt like leaving behind an entire lifetime. The childhood room with posters still on the wall, the family photos on the mantle, even the little ceramic cardinal figurine Mom gave me when I was 10. As I drove away, headlights cutting through the dark, tears blurred the road. My hands trembled on the wheel. I kept hearing Dad's words, "You're jealous. You're not family anymore." The next day, I changed my phone number. I closed every door. I told myself it was for survival, and maybe it was. But the silence that followed that long, cold silence was its own kind of wound. For 5 years, I built my life alone. I bought my Raleigh house with that money, turned it into a safe haven, filled it with routines and little comforts. Yet every now and then, I'd catch sight of that brass key I'd brought with me, my unspoken reminder that family can lock you out as easily as they let you in. So when Mom's email landed in my inbox 5 years later with its cryptic life and death message, you can understand why my chest tightened. Because some keys once turned can't be unturned. The cursor blinked at me for hours that night. I kept rereading the subject line, life and death. Please, come home. I drafted a reply. No, you cut me off. Don't contact me again. Deleted it. Then, who's dying? Deleted that too. By midnight, my hands were cramped from typing words I couldn't send. The house was silent, only the fridge's low hum and the occasional creak of the wooden floor. I wrapped myself in a blanket, rocking slightly, trying to calm the ache in my chest. Finally, I did what I hadn't done in years. I called Monica Reed, my college roommate, and the one person who'd seen me through every breakdown. She answered, half asleep. Ava, it's midnight. I know. I'm sorry. They emailed me. The pause on the other end was heavy. Your parents? Yes. First time in 5 years. They say it's life or death. Monica exhaled sharply. Don't tell me you're thinking of going. I don't know. What if it's real? What if Dad's sick? What if they're just pulling the same strings as before? You remember how that felt right? Her voice was stern, but underneath it, I heard the care. I pressed my forehead against my knees. I'd never forgive myself if one of them were dying and I ignored it. Then don't go alone. And for God's sake, set boundaries. Bring your phone record if you can. Ava, you know manipulation is their native language. I laughed bitterly, a sharp sound in the quiet. Yeah, family is a foreign tongue. Monica softened. Whatever happens, you owe them nothing. Remember that. After we hung up, I lay in bed staring at the brass key on my nightstand. I kept it there as a reminder of what doors I no longer walked through. I wondered if I'd be stupid to let that door crack open again. By dawn, I'd made my decision. I typed out a short reply, I'll come by Saturday. My hands shook as I hit send. The moment it whooshed off into cyberspace, I whispered to the empty room, this is a mistake. Saturday came faster than I wanted. I barely slept, tossing between dread and a strange, guilty anticipation. The drive to Columbus took 6 hours. Each mile pulled me deeper into a place I swore I'd never return to. The closer I got, the smaller everything looked. Houses I once thought were huge now seemed cramped streets, narrower the oak trees, older and more brittle. My chest tightened with every turn. I pulled into their driveway and froze. Parked there were a gleaming Porsche Cayenne and a Mercedes GLE. Both brand new, both shining in the midday sun like trophies. I sat gripping the steering wheel, my knuckles white. So Lily's broke but drives a Porsche. My stomach churned. Finally, I forced myself out. The air smelled of freshly cut grass mixed with the sharp tang of gasoline. My legs felt heavy as I climbed the porch steps, each board creaking like a warning. When Mom opened the door for a heartbeat, neither of us moved. She looked older, thinner, her eyes ringed with shadows. Ava, she whispered, voice cracking. Thank you for coming. I stepped inside, the familiar scent of lemon cleaner and old wood nearly knocking me back. The living room was the same, but it felt smaller, suffocating. Dad sat in his recliner, jaw clenched. On the couch, Lily hunched with Jason, her eyes red and swollen. I stayed standing. What's going on? Your email said life and death. Mom sat down heavily, tears springing again. It's about Lily. She's in serious trouble. I looked at my sister, but she wouldn't meet my eyes. Jason squeezed her hand. What kind of trouble? My voice was flat. Dad cleared his throat. Her business collapsed. She owes a lot. The bank took her house. A strange mix of sadness and vindication washed over me. I swallowed it down. I'm sorry to hear that. But why am I here? Mom dabbed her eyes with a tissue. That's not all. She owes money to very dangerous people. Finally, Lily spoke, a whisper trembling from her lips. 150,000. My jaw dropped. What to who? Jason jumped in. Private investors. They're not patient. They've been calling, making threats. We're scared, Ava. Really scared. My gut twisted, but suspicion curled in too. Something wasn't adding up. I rubbed my temples trying to process. That sounds awful, but I still don't understand why I'm here. Mom's voice rose desperate. Because you can fix this. You have a house, a beautiful one. If you sold it, you could pay off Lily's debts. The room spun. Are you out of your mind? You want me to sell my home? You're young, Mom pleaded. You can earn another. Lily and Jason could be killed. I barked a bitter laugh. Killed or sued. There's a difference. Dad leaned forward, eyes hard. Family helps family. The words slammed into me, the same phrase they'd weaponized 5 years ago. I laughed again, but it sounded like a sob. You told me I wasn't family anymore. Remember, Lily started sobbing harder. I know we hurt you before, but this is different. Please, Ava. They'll come for us. Jason's face darkened. You don't get what kind of pressure we're under. No, I don't, I snapped. But I saw 2 brand new cars outside. Maybe start by selling those before demanding my house. We need those for work. Lily shot back, her voice suddenly sharp. I turned to Dad. So let me get this straight. You disowned me when I wouldn't give her my savings. Now, after she's blown everything again, you expect me to sell my home? My safety net for her mom stood eyes wet but blazing. This house you love, it's just walls. Family is blood. You'll regret it if you don't help. I felt heat crawl up my neck. My pulse thundered. You made me regret trusting you years ago. I'm not doing it again. The room went silent. Everyone stared at me like I'd grown horns. I reached for my bag. If you want to help her so badly, sell your own house. Mom gasped. Dad's face hardened. As I walked toward the door, Lily's voice cracked behind me. You're making a huge mistake. These people don't play around. I turned back, meeting her tear-filled eyes. My voice was cold. Neither do I. Then I left. The air outside was cool, but my body was on fire. My hands shook so violently I dropped my car keys once before gripping them tight. As I drove away, Dad's words echoed, "Family helps family." And all I could think was, they'll never stop. Not until they've taken everything. For a few days after that confrontation, silence wrapped around me like a heavy blanket. I almost believed maybe they'd finally heard me. Marcus, well, Noah called every night from Boulder. His voice was my anchor. You did the right thing, he told me. They can't just storm back into your life and demand everything you've built. I wanted to believe him, but every creak of the floorboards at night made me glance toward the door. Every car slowing on my Raleigh street made my pulse spike. One Tuesday morning as I poured coffee, I heard the slam of a car door right outside. My mug nearly slipped. Through the blinds, I saw them, my parents walking up the driveway. My chest squeezed. How the hell did they find me? I opened the door before they could knock heat flaring in my veins. What are you doing here? My voice shook. How did you even get my address? Mom looked almost smug. Lily hired a private investigator. We needed to talk face to face. A private investigator. My stomach dropped. That meant they'd crossed a line I didn't even know they'd dare approach. Dad's eyes roamed over my house like he was taking inventory. This is a nice place, he said, low and calculating. Get off my property, I snapped. But Mom brushed past me as if I were a child again, as if boundaries didn't exist. The familiar scent of her perfume powdery rose clung to my living room. I hated that it made my knees weak with memories. Don't make yourselves comfortable, I warned. You're not staying. They ignored me. Dad spread his arms, gesturing at the space. Look at all this room. Just you living here. You don't need all this. I felt my nails dig crescents into my palms. What I need is none of your business. Mom's eyes welled up with tears I didn't trust for a second. Sarah's really scared. These men called again. They know where she is. If they don't get their money, something terrible will happen. Her voice cracked. For a flicker of a moment, I almost softened. Almost. But then I remembered the Porsche in her driveway, the way they'd once told me I wasn't family, and I felt my spine lock into steel. You both need to leave. Now. My voice was low, steady. Dad crossed his arms. We're not leaving until you agree to help your sister. I pulled my phone from my pocket. Then I'm calling the police. His hand shot out, gripping my arm. Not hard enough to bruise, but enough to jolt me back to every childhood memory of being controlled. Don't be ridiculous, he muttered. I yanked free, my skin burning where his fingers had been. Try me. My thumb hovered over the screen. The tension thickened, the silence punctured only by the tick of my wall clock. Finally, Mom's shoulders sagged. Fine, she whispered, sobbing. But if something happens to Sarah, it's on your head. I laughed, bitter and hollow. No. If something happens, it's because she made her own choices. Bad ones. Dad jabbed a finger at me, eyes narrowed. You'll regret this. Family is supposed to stick together. You didn't think that 5 years ago I shot back. They left at last, but not before Mom let out a dramatic wail, as if she were starring in some tragic play. When the door clicked shut, I locked it and pressed my forehead against the wood. My whole body trembled. The house, usually my sanctuary, suddenly felt invaded, contaminated. I called Noah immediately. My voice shook so badly I could barely explain. They found me, I whispered. They actually walked right in, hired a damn PI to track me down. His silence on the line was heavy, furious. Then, you need to protect yourself, Ava. This isn't going to stop. They'll keep pushing until they break you. I swallowed hard. What do? I don't want them showing up again. I don't even feel safe here anymore. He exhaled slowly. Maybe it's time to let the house go. Take away the one thing they keep trying to weaponize against you. The words hit me like cold water. Sell my house, my fortress, my proof that I'd survived. I glanced toward the brass key on my counter. My chest squeezed, but maybe he was right. That night, I sat in my office, surrounded by the glow of my monitor, staring at real estate listings. My cursor hovered over Tom Nguyen's contact info, the realtor I'd casually spoken to about maybe moving to Boulder one day. My fingers felt like lead as I typed, "Hi Tom, remember our chat about selling my house? I need to move fast. I'll take a 5% discount if necessary." Within minutes, he replied, "Interesting timing. I may have a buyer in mind. Let me make some calls." I leaned back in my chair, heart hammering. The decision felt both devastating and liberating. The next morning, I boxed up the ceramic cardinal figurine from my shelf. Its crimson paint caught the morning light, but in my hands it felt fragile, like everything I thought family was supposed to be. I wrapped it in newspaper, tucking it away for the move. When Tom called back with an offer, it was lower than I'd dreamed, but fast clean. I accepted without hesitation. Noah drove down that weekend, helping me pack. His presence steadied me. We loaded boxes into the truck, each one a memory folded away, books I'd read during lonely nights, throw blankets I'd bought to make this house feel like home, even the little monarch butterfly pin I used to wear at the office for confidence. As we strapped down the last box, I turned to see the house one final time. My throat tightened. "You okay?" Noah asked gently, slipping an arm around me. "I'm relieved," I admitted. Sad, but relieved. They can't use this place against me anymore. He kissed my temple. "This is just the beginning. We'll find a place that's ours. No ghosts." We climbed into the truck and drove away. The brass key lay on the passenger seat, catching the sun. I closed my hand over it, squeezing hard. For the first time in years, I felt like I was steering my life instead of being pulled by theirs. But even as the road stretched toward Boulder, a whisper lingered in the back of my mind. They won't just let go. Not now. Not ever. 2 weeks after selling my house, I finally started to breathe again. Noah's condo in Boulder felt small compared to my place in Raleigh, but it was safe. Cozy. The mornings smelled like pine from the mountains. The evenings hummed with cicadas. For the first time in years, I didn't flinch every time a car slowed outside. Then my phone rang. Unknown number. Local area code from Ohio. My pulse spiked. "Hello," a calm voice answered. "Is this Ava Bennett?" "Yes." This is Detective Grace Patel with the Columbus Police Department. I'm calling about an incident involving your parents, Frank and Diane Bennett. My blood turned to ice. What kind of incident? She cleared her throat. Last night they were arrested for breaking and entering and destruction of property. I gripped the counter until my knuckles whitened. Breaking into what an address on Maple Street? 847. Does that mean anything to you? The world tilted. My old house. I sold that place a month ago. My voice came out hollow. Detective Patel paused. They claimed it was still yours. The new owner, a Mr. Jordan Kim, came home to find them inside, smashing furniture with a baseball bat. My knees buckled. I slid onto a stool, the phone pressed hard against my ear. They caused significant damage. Broken windows, spray-painted walls, destroyed belongings. Estimated loss is around $40,000. I pressed my hand to my mouth. My parents, smashing someone else's living room. My chest hurt like it was splitting open. Why, I whispered, they told us they were trying to send you a message, that you'd wronged them. Patel's voice was even, but the disgust underneath was clear. The image seared into me, my father veins bulging, raising a bat, my mother shrieking, flinging paint. The same hands that once tucked me into bed, now vandalizing a stranger's home because I wouldn't bend. I managed to croak. What happens now? The homeowner is pressing charges. Your parents are facing restitution. Likely no jail if they plead guilty, but the costs will be steep. I hung up eventually, but my hands wouldn't stop shaking. Noah found me curled on the couch phone, still in my lap. What happened? He asked, crouching down, eyes searching mine. They tried to destroy me, I whispered. But it wasn't even my house anymore. The following days blurred into updates, phone calls, whispers from old acquaintances back in Columbus. My parents, the same people who once lectured me about dignity and reputation, were now the talk of the neighborhood. Frank and Diane Bennett arrested for vandalism. The details trickled in. They'd spray-painted traitor across the living room wall, smashed a coffee table with a bat, even hurled a ceramic lamp through a window. But the part that gutted me most was what they broke the little cardinal figurine I'd left boxed on a shelf for the new owner, the one thing I hadn't taken when I moved. The red shards Jordan Kim told me later were scattered across the hardwood. When he described it, my throat closed. That figurine had once symbolized home family Ohio roots. Seeing it shattered felt like confirmation whatever family I'd had was dead long before they swung that bat. I sat on Noah's balcony one evening, the Rockies bathed in amber light, my phone buzzing with another update from Detective Patel. They've admitted guilt, she said. We're negotiating restitution. Between damages, legal fees, and court costs, we're estimating around $60,000. I exhaled, watching the sun sink. They don't have that kind of money. They'll have to find it. Patel's voice was firm. When I hung up, Noah leaned against the railing. What does this mean for you? It means they'll never stop, I whispered. They wanted me ruined so badly they destroyed someone else's house by mistake. He wrapped an arm around me. Or maybe this is the end. Sometimes people fall so low they can't keep crawling after you. I wanted to believe him, but in my gut I knew manipulation was their oxygen. They'd find a way to twist this too. 2 days later, Monica called. You sitting down? She asked. Not really, but go ahead. Your parents sold their house in Columbus to cover the restitution. It's gone. The words hit like a storm surge. The house they'd claimed was their only anchor, the reason they said they couldn't help me 5 years ago. Gone. And Monica added her tone, turning bitter. They gave what was left after paying the homeowner to Lily for her debt. I stared at the mountains until they blurred. My parents had done exactly what they once demanded of me, only this time they paid the price themselves. But the story didn't stop there. Monica's voice dropped lower, as if afraid someone might overhear. There's something else. Those dangerous men Lily owed. They're not mobsters. They're not thugs. They're a legit investment firm. They'd been threatening legal action, yes, but nothing violent. I blinked hard. You mean all that crying about broken kneecaps exaggerated? Manipulation. She lied to make your parents panic, played the victim until they tore their own lives apart. I sat in stunned silence. The phone grew heavy in my hand. My sister had staged the whole theater, and my parents had swallowed it whole, then turned their rage on me. That night, I pulled the little brass key from my pocket, the one I'd kept even after leaving Raleigh. I turned it over in my hand until my palm ached. What good was blood if it only cut you open? Noah found me sitting at the kitchen table, tears streaking silently. "Talk to me," he said softly. "They ruined themselves," I whispered. "And for what a lie? A performance. She conned them into burning down their own house. And they still think I'm the traitor." He knelt beside me. "You're not the traitor, Ava. You're the survivor." I covered my face with my hands. My body shook not with grief, but with a fury so hot it left me cold. For 5 years, I'd blamed myself, wondering if I'd been too harsh, too unforgiving. But now the truth was laid bare. They chose her lies over my truth. And when I wouldn't play along, they tried to destroy me. Later that week, Detective Patel sent photos from the scene for the restitution file. Against my better judgment, I opened them. There it was, the word traitor splashed in black spray paint across the wall, the red shards of the cardinal figurine glittering in the debris. My breath caught. The image was grotesque and poetic all at once. They'd meant it to break me. Instead, it crystallized everything I needed to know. I closed the file and deleted it. From that moment, I understood there was no fixing this. No phone call, no apology would glue those shards back together. And yet, even in the wreckage, I felt something like clarity. Maybe even peace. Because sometimes you don't need to rebuild the house you lost. You just need to walk away and build a better one somewhere else. The weeks that followed were eerily quiet. I didn't hear directly from my parents or Lily, but their shadows stretched long. Mutual friends reached out, voices hushed, carrying messages like contraband. "Your mom asked me to tell you she's sorry," Jenny whispered over the phone. "She said they realized they handled everything wrong." I pressed my forehead against the window pane, looking out at the Colorado sky bleeding into twilight. "It's too late for sorry. Ava, they lost everything. They're living in a cramped 2-bedroom with Lily and Jason now. It's miserable. Don't you want closure? The word tasted bitter. For 5 years, they'd lived like I was dead. And now they wanted resurrection, as if my forgiveness were a magic trick that could reset shattered glass. "No," I said quietly. "I want peace. That doesn't come from reopening wounds." Jenny sighed, but I could tell she understood. Still, the guilt gnawed at me like an old injury aching before a storm. At night, I replayed Dad's ultimatum, Mom's sobs, Lily's pleading eyes. And every time I reminded myself they chose. They chose her schemes, her lies, her manipulations. They chose to call me selfish instead of responsible. They chose to break into a house that wasn't even mine just to punish me. That wasn't love. That wasn't family. One evening, I pulled out the monarch butterfly pin I used to wear for courage. I set it on the table next to the brass key from Raleigh. Side by side, they looked like relics from another life. I ran my finger along the cool metal and whispered, "Never again." Noah walked in, catching me mid-whisper. "Talking to ghosts," he teased gently. "Burying them," I said. And I meant it. Spring crept over Boulder, and with it a sense of renewal I didn't think I'd ever feel again. Snowmelt trickled through the gutters, the air smelled of pine and wet earth, and my chest finally felt unclenched. Noah and I spent evenings scrolling through house listings, imagining rooms filled with laughter instead of accusations. For the first time in my adult life, home didn't feel like a battlefield. It felt like a future. One golden evening, as the sun dipped behind the flatirons, Noah set aside his laptop. He looked nervous, and I caught him fiddling with something in his pocket. "Ava," he said, standing. His voice trembled in a way I'd never heard. Then he dropped to one knee. My breath caught. He pulled out a small velvet box and opened it. The diamond inside caught the fading light like a spark. "Will you marry me, We can build that house together, the one that's really ours." Tears stung my eyes. Not the bitter kind I'd shed for years, but the clean, unexpected kind that washes you. "Yes," I whispered then louder. "Yes. Absolutely yes." He slipped the ring onto my shaking hand, then stood and held me tight. I felt his heartbeat steady and real, grounding me in a way my so-called family never had. Later that night, I unpacked one final box I hadn't dared open before. Inside was a new cardinal figurine I'd bought quietly weeks earlier, unsure if I'd ever have the courage to display it. I placed it carefully on the shelf in Noah's living room. This one wasn't a relic of Ohio or a gift from people who used love like a weapon. This was mine, chosen freely. As it caught the lamplight, I felt the symbolism settle deep. I wasn't erasing my past, but I was no longer defined by it. Family isn't blood. Family is who shows up, who respects your boundaries, who celebrates your wins without demanding your soul in return. Looking at that figurine at the ring on my finger, at Noah smiling from the kitchen, I knew I had finally built my real home, and I wasn't giving it up for anyone. So that's my story. Sometimes the hardest truth to swallow is that family doesn't always mean love. It can mean manipulation, guilt, and demands that never end. And walking away, no matter how brutal, can sometimes be the only way to save yourself. But let me ask you this. If your parents demanded you give up everything you worked for, your house, your savings, your peace, would you do it? Or would you draw the line even if it meant being called the traitor? I'd love to hear your thoughts. Drop a comment and tell me where you stand, or share a story if you've ever had to make that impossible choice. And if you connected with my journey, please consider subscribing to the channel. We share stories like this every week about betrayal, survival, and finding strength where you least expect it. Thanks for spending this time with me.